tell us something about the work that you do here in the Big Data Institute?
So I lead a large group these days called the Malaria Atlas Project. We are a multidisciplinary team. We have computer scientists, we have epidemiologists. I myself am a geographer originally, so from a wide range of different backgrounds. And overall we're interested in better understanding the global distribution of malaria, so what the landscape of malaria risk looks like today, how it's changed over recent years and how we think it may change in the future. And the whole idea is to try to sort of better inform our ability to ultimately control the disease.
Tell me something about how you actually go about building these maps. I mean, you presumably don't have people going out into the field and measuring lots of things, or where does the information come?
We don't do very much in the way of field work ourselves. There's kind of two main components. One of them is a massive effort to collate as much malaria data as we can. This comes from a whole range of different sources, from surveys, from ministries of health and so on, from satellite remote sensing. So we assemble all this data, we curate it, we put it in a large formal database, and then separately from that we have a large program of methodological statistical development to develop new algorithms, new statistical models that can take this diverse data, put it together in a coherent way and come out with a kind of formalised statistical interpretation of what we think the landscape of malaria risk looks like.
So how do you know that you've got that right?
It's an important question. Obviously we can just throw data in, apply an algorithm and we'll get some kind of result. And so it's critical to have an idea of the level of rigour and how accurate we can be in our maps and our predictions. So we do what we call out of sample validation. So every time we make a map, we hold some of that data to one side and don't use it in building the model. Then we test the results against that data that we've held out and see how close we were to the truth, and that gives us a handle on our level of precision. And pleasingly through time, as we've got more data and we've refined the methods, that level of precision is gradually increasing kind of year on year. So we know we're slowly getting even better answers.
And tell us something about what you've learned about malaria and how it changes over space and time.
Well, one of the most important things we've sort of demonstrated quantitatively is the extent to which malaria has declined, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, since around about the year 2000. So the period from then to now is when we've had a huge international effort, investment in malaria control tools, bed nets, drugs and so on to try and reduce the disease. But we didn't really have a very, very strong idea of exactly how effective that had been and how that sort of varied geographically. So by building these big data sets and these statistical methodologies, we were able to demonstrate sort of unambiguously the extent of that decline and the extent to which the malaria control tools had caused that decline. We've seen about halving of infection prevalence, so the fraction of children who are infected with malaria, for example, has declined by about 50% since the year 2000. Progress on malaria deaths, on mortality, has been even greater.
So obviously your work has a lot of implications for public health. How do you work with those bodies whose job it is to actually implement strategies to control malaria?
My group, the Malaria Atlas Project, is what's called a WHO, World Health Organization, collaborating centre, which means we have this official status where we work closely, collaboratively with members of staff within the WHO headquarters in Geneva. So we partner directly with ministries of health, who are obviously the ones ultimately responsible for implementing malaria control, for actually going out there and getting these intervention tools in the hands of the population. And they often have rather different types of questions from the international level. So they're more operationally focused, of course, exactly where within their country should they be allocating insecticide bed nets, or where do they need to provide more drugs. So we, at the country level, we provide much more granular information to try and support that sort of programmatic planning.
And what are you most excited about over the next 5 years or so?
I think within malaria, I, like many other people closely involved in the field, are really excited about what is happening and what potentially can happen in malaria globally over the next 5 years, but more realistically, over the course of our careers, 10, 20-year timeframes, where we really hope that the progress that's happened so far can continue and can accelerate, so that we are entering a phase where we're considering the eradication of the disease over a multi-decade time frame. So to potentially play a role in that and to inform some of the planning for those activities personally is hugely exciting.